Artists go manic and depressive because of their intensity. Chapter 1. Creative people are extreme. Starry, starry night. As soon as you trust yourself, you will know how to live. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Whatever else you do, don't waste even a rock. It's your own time, it's your own life that you're spending. Make it a goal to waste it on something you really enjoy, not something you're merely hung up on doing or something someone brainwashed or guilt-tripped you into believing you have a duty to do. Claire Wolfe, The Freedom Outlaw's Handbook, clairewolfe.com. Freedom is scary. That's why most people would rather live in a comfortable, little box. Don't compromise yourself, you are all you have. Janis Joplin. Let him that would move the world first move himself. Socrates. Life on planet Earth is just a series of random moments all strung together. If you want to win at it, live for what makes you feel good and disregard the rest. Bohemian Bob. We become what we think about. Earl Nightingale, The Strangest Secret. Big Brother is a term that refers to the various establishment institutions out there like the government, the church, the mainstream media, the entertainment industry, the corporate structure, the formal education system, etc. Whether we realize it or not, whether by design or not, all these forces together exert a manipulative force on us, sometimes subtle, sometimes direct, that makes many of us neurotic because they're constantly brainwashing us with two conflicting viewpoints at the same time. 1. The competitive, go get ambitious, be a winner, be cool, trendy, successful, high status, elitist, capitalist, consumerist ideology. 2. The Christian New Age, we are the world, love humanity, serve your fellow man, cooperate with each other, be humble, be thankful, forgive and forget ideology. These mixed messages constantly coming at us in roughly equal proportions have the effect of separating us from our true natures, at least brainwashing the weak people who don't realize this is what's going on. The net result of this indoctrination is that many of us who don't know our souls or live by them become an inconsistent basket case of contradictions and anxieties in trying to conform to all these demands the world surreptitiously places on us. Live by the essence that God endowed you with, unpolluted by the delusions and illusions of the world. You have nothing to prove to anyone, only to answer to your own standard every day when you wake up. Truly wise people can only get wise by contemplating their own lives and coming to their own insights. I am telling you the way, but you have to take that journey to discover your true nature yourself, then have the guts to live it out in the face of all the clones around you parroting the crap they see on TV, wanting you to be like them. While I think religion is generally a good force to control the masses, keep them law-abiding and give them comfort and hope when they're down, it also has the effect of closing minds down by imposing rigorous codes of conduct on them. You might feel sacrilegious for going against the religion of your youth, as both James Joyce, Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, and I have done in questioning our Catholic roots, but it's the only way to free yourself, to let go of everything except for what resides in the pure primal divine mix that is you. What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. James 4:14. Life for the enlightened is to enjoy the dance day after day. There's no paradigm about winning versus losing or success versus failure with me. If I give worthy effort to expend my natural inspired energy right now, I've served my purpose for the day regardless of outcome. The process of releasing this energy is my joy and my fountain of youth. That's the prize, the fact that I stay spiritually, physically, and medically younger than others my chronological age by releasing intense amounts of inspired sensual loving mystical energy to stay true to my nature. I don't get it when people pray to God to win a gold medal in a swim meet, to be successful in business by getting more market share than the competition, or to win a war against another country, because if you were truly godlike, you would throw away your competitive motives and instead try to cooperate with your fellow man rather than trying to beat him to stand on some transient pedestal of superiority for a minute or two to satisfy your cheap, lost, one-dimensional ego, which is the crux of the capitalist ideology. I believe in using the natural power in my soul to release whatever inspired energy lives inside of me to either help, entertain, or inspire people to earn me my cash, but beyond that, I have no interest in the capitalist games of wealth, popularity, fame, and status people play. I live according to my own standard, pure and free. I compete with no one but myself. The only rule is that you don't infringe on the lives of people who don't want to be involved with you, but whatever consenting adults do together is fine. The total losers are the people who don't make an effort to release any energy at all, neither the natural potential inspired energy in their souls nor the mundane energy to try to earn a living or attain the system's version of success like most of the population does, so they have no identity beyond the pop culture crap they fill their minds up with. This quickly leads to self-loathing. All we really own is time. Nobody is above humanity with respect to health, aging, death, nor does anyone automatically get a free pass to the only few elixirs of life. Youthful spark. A sense of inspiration. Self-respect/personal dignity. Peace of mind. Love and respect with a few people and pets. These are the great equalizers. Everybody gets old and withers away despite what pretensions they live by regarding material wealth, coolness, fame, and status in the world. Material wealth can enhance the quality of life, but only to the point where your needs and some cheap thrill desires are met. The fulfillment of your deepest needs and desires can only come from the soul. If you're living at a comfortable lower middle class level, all the gadgets and thrills you can buy are enough. The toys and stuff wealthier people buy is all just external dressing. It will not enhance your life all that much. All the money, status, and fame in the world will not give you the few elixirs of transcendence, inspiration, youthful spark, self-respect, peace of mind and love. You can't buy them. You have to create them and earn them all the time. The greatest politician is a has-been once he's out of office. His identity as a power broker is gone just like that. It was not an inherent part of his soul, so it can't help him now. He lives alone in his head like you. He can't rely on love taps of admiration from his adoring public or his subordinate yes men anymore. He's either got a connection to his soul or he's just another lost, generic soul. It doesn't matter what his position out in the world is or was. What is the essence of beauty and madness? I get an image of Van Gogh, in his multicolored, psychedelic mind, high on wine and probably opium on some night in his short life, frantically trying to capture this grandiose feeling he had of the magnificence of the cosmos in the moment, painting Starry Night, which is the way I try to live, in that inspired sensual type headspace as far away from the so-called real world as possible. It's like Thomas Paine said, give me liberty or give me death. You don't want to do it halfway. Van Gogh and Gauguin, manic depressive or just living hard. An artist's life is one long martyrdom. Paul Gauguin. I am savage in spite of myself. Paul Gauguin, in Tahiti, 1896. The age of 30 is, for the working man, just the beginning of a period of some stability, and as such, one feels young and full of energy. But, at the same time, a period of life has passed, which makes one melancholy, thinking some things will never come back. And it is no silly sentimentalism to feel a certain regret. Well, many things really begin at the age of 30, and certainly all is not over then. But one doesn't expect from life what one has already learned it cannot give, but rather one begins to see more and more clearly that life is only a kind of sowing time, and the harvest is not here. Van Gogh, letter to his brother Theo, February 8, 1883. The movie Lust for Life with Kirk Douglas playing the role of Vincent van Gogh showcases his evolution to become himself fully regardless of anything else in the world. Rejected by the church in his attempts to be a missionary because he associated with the poor natives too much without the dignity they thought a member of the clergy should have, he couldn't work a regular job because, as he said, his ideas were different from the people who handed out jobs. He lived out the rest of his life as an exploration of his inner whims, a sin according to the puritanical, Victorian dogma of the day because he acknowledged his supposed dark side and explored it. He painted a picture of a guy working in a field in the splendor of the midday sun and said this is how he wanted to go when he died, with his soul as full as it could be, shining with the brightness of the noonday sun. His death at 37 in 1890 was part suicide, part madness, a typical end for many extremist creative types who can't seem to function in the so-called real world, so when they don't reach their vision of beauty or make money through their creative efforts, they get discouraged, lose their spark, and since that's all that matters, it becomes very difficult to live a plain existence like the people around them. Van Gogh was an epileptic, alcoholic, smoker and intense artist, which generally means a life of extreme highs and lows as he set out to get beyond conventional reality to capture bits of transcendence here and there. It's good to be this original, but for some, it leads to feelings of loneliness and alienation from the world since they feel they're so different from just about everybody else on the planet. Van Gogh got away from realism into the fantasy elements of surrealism through his paintings, like his friend Paul Gauguin, who was also into the fantasy elements of painting more so than realism. The two lived together in southern France for a while, focusing on their painting, but couldn't live in peace together, so Gauguin left, took a 69-day boat trip to Tahiti where he had a blast for a while, found a patron who was willing to give him a steady income of 300 francs a month for his paintings, fathered at least 4 children cavorting with the native girls, but caught syphilis, which led to a painful death at a young age. Paul Gauguin started out following the typical brainwashed path, then suddenly got enlightened at some point in life. Born in 1848, he did a 6-year stint in the merchant marine at 17, then entered the stock market, was unhappy with a wife and 5 kids, so he went off traveling and painting at the age of 30 or so. Disgusted with the politics of the European art scene, he took a ship to Tahiti, which was a slow, tedious process back then, but it shows he had the guts to go out looking for new horizons, even though I feel he was morally wrong in starting a family and not following through with it, but that's his business, not mine to judge. He said, "From now on, I will paint every day, not being influenced by our civilization. I only desire to create a simple art." He referred to Tahitian women, like Eve, still able to walk naked without indecency, preserving all her animal beauty. He called his bronze self-portrait of 1896 savage, ouvre in French, and the book he wrote with Charles Morris describes an untamed, free, passionate life. He said, "I am a savage in spite of myself," meaning he couldn't help being his true primal self, unfettered and unrepressed. His other book was Gauguin's Letters from the South Seas. He died in 1903, in debt and in pain. There was no eulogy or flowers at his death. At least he had the guts to try to do what he really wanted. There's a monument to him in Tahiti now which tourists go and visit. I believe it's at his gravesite. Recently, there was another guy, Charles McPhee, as portrayed in the documentary movie Velvet Dreams, about this guy who didn't want to live in the capitalist world, as he called it, so he went to the South Sea Islands, painted beautiful semi-naked women on velvet, and became a celebrity in the world of velvet nudes. When Gauguin left the house he shared with Van Gogh, Van Gogh went off the deep end. I guess he hated being alone, which fueled his madness. After his ear-cutting episode, he was committed to a sanatorium for a while where he continued to paint, then he got restless and left to live at an inn. His brother Theo's wife had a baby, so Theo wrote to tell Vincent about it and told him how tough it would be to support his family as well as him. This hit Vincent hard, who, as far as anyone knows, painted over 900 pictures and sold just one painting in his lifetime, Red Vineyard. He felt he was a burden on his brother and made his first suicide attempt, which failed. He was discouraged to have his creative vision rejected by the world. He lived a beautiful, short, tragic life as immortalized in the song by Don McLean, Vincent. This world was never meant for one as beautiful as you. He was the epitome of an original trying to purge what he feels inside, giving up all the fruits of a material world to pursue his visions. Then when he wasn't able to support himself through his art, he let it get to him and crashed, which is the story of many creative types. Inspiration is lost, the flame is gone. They feel betrayed as misunderstood artists by a world that doesn't acknowledge their efforts, so they off themselves. But if they were a bit more rational, many could make it through simply by learning to be more temperate, accepting life as finite time and choosing to honor it regardless. Van Gogh is a martyr of the human soul, which is probably why so many people are attracted to him as an historic figure, because he represents something in all of us which most of us aren't willing to sacrifice ourselves for. Some creative types have enough money to live comfortably, but they off themselves when they get bored with life. They feel they've gone as far as they can go in the exploration of their souls/essences, aka the souls, so there's nothing left anymore to keep them inspired, and they rationalize that it's time to move on to the next plane of existence. Many middle-aged creative types have done this or just died naturally at their young ages after a flurry of creative activity. Consider F. Scott Fitzgerald, Edgar Allan Poe, Soren Kierkegaard, or Oscar Wilde, and a Japanese writer I read about who committed harikari after he got bored with life at 47. These people have gotten it all out of their systems, whatever it is they feel they were sent here to do, and after that, it's over, they can rest in peace, and many do, either killing themselves or dying accidentally on purpose by getting sick in some way. They're telling their soul/essence they want to die, and it returns the favor by obliging them with an illness that kills them. Consider the quote by Goethe to Johann Eckermann, March 11, 1828. Mozart died in his 36th year. Raphael at the same age. Byron only a little older. But all these had perfectly fulfilled their missions, and it was time for them to depart, that other people might still have something to do in a world made to last a long while. Creative types feel too much, which is why they're so moody or manic depressive, take your pick of terms. If Van Gogh could have made a living from his paintings and not be dependent on his brother Theo, he might have been all right, but he couldn't compromise his creativity, so he ended up killing himself rather than give in to working a dull job in order to support himself. This is how extreme creative types think. If we can't be ourselves, life isn't really worth it. I'll refer to Patrick Henry, give me liberty or give me death. Van Gogh had no choice as to the way he lived. He had to follow the song of his soul, and when it didn't pan out materially, he still had to live that way, even though it led to such discouragement that he started going mad, cut his ear off for the love of a prostitute who he thought was his girlfriend, but to her he was just another guy. In the movie Lust for Life, he stabbed himself. In the movie Vincent and Me, about him and his brother Theo, he shot himself after painting the classic picture in the noonday sun. In a book I read, he shot himself. Normal people have a hard time finding their souls and getting inspired. The curse of a creative person's life is that they have no choice but to live by soul regardless of outcome. Many creative types throughout history lived and died for what they believed in, which made life very tough for a lot of them. You have to eat and want to live in comfort, but at the same time, if you can't be true to yourself, life has no real meaning beyond transient glitter. But a wise person who has an opportunity to get manufactured as a pop star would milk his or her gimmick while the going was good. Then when the public moves on to the next fresh new flavor of the month, they'd have the money to do whatever they wanted to do for the rest of their lives. Life for the majority of creatively inspired original people who want to stay pure and unpolluted by commercial exploitation is still that of the starving artist. It's part of the process to explore the dark side of life, poverty, discouragement, anger, and other painful things, such that you come face to face with your truest, deepest soul and express it in your own way, like the blues created out of the pain of life, or anything great which is ultimately all about adversity and the triumph to overcome it. There have been many like our inventors, explorers, artists, philosophers, thinkers, Plato with his philosopher king concept, Socrates who said know thyself, Shakespeare with his famous quote to thine own self be true, and the list goes on, all people with restless spirits that made them want to reach for something different and paid the price, but did it anyway because they had to be themselves no matter what. If you're a creative free spirit, be ready for a lot of indifference and outright hate to whatever it is that you might try to do in your own unique way to offer to the world, because you're an individual, you're not motivated by the things the typical generic people have bought into. Free spirits are often perceived as weird or offbeat by the normals around them because they're not strongly motivated by money, things, or food like everybody else. It's often too mundane for you to feel any inspiration around you, so much of your journey will have to be alone. Creative people live for inspiration. When this is destroyed by a constant beating from the world, many go wacko. I'm warning you up front to find peace in your soul first before you go out to set the world on fire with your incredible, unique talents because the world will laugh at you and spit you out. It goes like the old song says. Can't please everyone, so you got to please yourself. Van Gogh Museum.nl. The extreme creative type. No artist is pleased. There is only a queer divine dissatisfaction, a blessed unrest that keeps us marching and makes us more alive than the other. Martha Graham, in Agnes de Mille, Dance to the Piper, 1952. True art is to do something to try to make others feel as intensely as you feel. The easiest way to know you're an extreme artist, stuck on your talent, passion, cravings, or whatever you want to call it, is if there's an urgency to your work or you're intensely religious about those few particular soulful pursuits you do, such that you feel you'll die inside or get severely depressed if you are prevented from doing them. It's both a curse and a blessing at the same time. It's good in the way that you're never bored, always inspired, but it's bad in the way that you're stuck on it. You sacrifice a lot of things to stay true to yourself, particularly the time you spend with the people in your life, because you're so obsessed with your particular soulful pursuit. Some creative types get rich within the creative realm of the real world, others don't and get discouraged seeking solace in booze and drugs, since creative types are extremist for experience anyway, or they may off themselves, as many do, because the inspired soul is all that matters, and once it's gone for one reason or another, their raison d'etre is lost, so they check out as a logical conclusion. Because their business is done on planet Earth, they've gone as far as they could go and there's nothing else left to do. Surveys on creative people show that many die by middle age after a flurry of creative activity, as if they've expended themselves fully and are now ready to rest. Extremely creative people have lots of issues, one of which is the tug between societal norms and the visions of the lone artist to hold on to his individual identity and express himself. Some creative types are obsessed, they can't help what they do, they can't rest on their laurels. They have to always be either writing, painting, creating new songs, on the road playing gigs or whatever. This is when it can get detrimental in life, because many creative people are just too damn intense for their own good, always trying to fill themselves up by creating something or giving of themselves to the world. Their personal relationships suffer tremendously because they give in to their creativity over love. I read that Isaac Asimov, the famous science and sci-fi writer, was so hooked on writing that even after he got sick and knew he was going to die, he spent the last few months of his life feverishly writing away. The classic artist's dilemma is that they only love their art, and even though they strive to earn their keep through their creative pursuits, many don't. People need money to pay bills and need to justify their existences with tangible results, hence, the intense need to be recognized for your work. Although many won't be recognized simply because the demand for their product isn't there, there's intense competition or they just don't get the breaks. However, these extreme creative types can't give in to a regular life. They'd rather live in poverty and do what they love rather than sell their souls by exchanging their time for a regular job which they perceive as a death sentence. This is the price you might pay for being true to yourself. Another big issue that many creative types have is the cycles of life. Because they're intense by nature, they go way up then crash for a while. Many creative types live a life that some would call manic depression, while others would call simply living out the extremes of all your moods when they come. Because I naturally want the extremes of my experiences, to get higher than high and lower than low, I often supplement my moods via drugs and or alcohol, because they help give me the intensity of experience I need to feel I'm getting some use out of this thing I call my life. This is normal for a lot of creative people simply because it's the way they are, always searching for the euphoria that frees them from the mundanity of the human condition for a while, or searching their depths to see who they really are on a primal level. It's all about feeling free through creative work and mind-altering substances. The creative person lives to free his soul, to get it out somehow in a meaningful, passionate, intense, frenzied way. This creates the good feelings and euphoria about life. Then when they get down, they generally take it way harder than the average person because they brood and analyze it so intensely, creating a worst-case scenario in their minds which feels so bleak such that in one instant of depression and alcohol, it could be all over. While many creative types burn out and die at a young age, many evolve to reach a point where they accept themselves, move into a calmer phase of creative expression. Unlike the passionate, hot creative fires of youth and otherwise live decent, happy lives. Many creative people simply can't handle the future prospect of a life working a dull job to pay bills and choose death rather than deal with it. Many creative types are too sensitive and live all the burdens of the world within themselves, hence, the reason why they're perceived as moody. That's the curse or the blessing, take it whichever way you want. The journey to freedom. When I am, as it were, completely myself, entirely alone, and of good cheer, it is on such occasions that my ideas flow best and most abundantly. Whence and how they come, I know not, nor can I force them. Those ideas that please me I retain in memory and am accustomed, as I have been told, to hum them to myself. If it continues in this way, it soon occurs to me how I may turn this or that morsel to account, so as to make a good dish of it, that is to say, agreeably to the rules of counterpoint, to the peculiarities of the various instruments, etc. All this fires my soul. My subject enlarges itself, becomes methodized and defined, and the whole, though it be long, stands almost complete and finished in my mind so that I can survey it, like a picture, at a glance. Nor do I hear in my imagination the parts successively but I hear them, as it were, all at once, gleich alles zusammen. What has thus been produced I do not easily forget, and this is perhaps the best gift I have my divine Maker to thank for. Amadeus Mozart, from his letters. Come to the edge, he said. They said, we are afraid. Come to the edge, he said. They came. He pushed them and they flew. Guillaume Apollinaire. Of all the things I ever encountered as a young man, only a few ever felt right for me, like the novel Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man by James Joyce, Jonathan Livingston Seagull by Richard Bach, richardbach.com, Siddhartha and Damien by Hermann Hesse, the movie and novel The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand, the song The Spirit of Man by Chris de Burgh and B by Neil Diamond. The book and PBS TV series The Power of the Myth by Joseph Campbell, pbs.org, reduced all of human mythology down into a common journey, the hero's journey, a process of self-exploration and self-discovery. There is always a point of adversity as the phoenix is slain and cut to pieces but then has the wherewithal to rise from the ashes and reclaim the true power of the soul. The universal quest of man is to live for soul and minimize everything else, to finally realize that the stuff the world sold you on about being successful and cool is all an illusion. The only thing that really matters is what you feel in your soul. I believe a creative soul is something you're born with but must work at in order to release. The greatest sin is to let it die inside while you work a dull job, then water your lawn on the weekend and realize this is it. Life is like a comfortable caged rat being manipulated by forces you let control you. The 1973 book Jonathan Livingston Seagull by Richard Bach had a statement something like they were being themselves perfectly without self-consciousness, doing what they were created for, flying, in their cases to soar to their highest heights as best as they could, happy for being who they were. I think of Da Vinci, Edison, and all those others who live lives exploring what they want, chasing their creative and intellectual whims, many of which don't yield a positive, practical result for the real world, but so what, they're living their journey, doing what they see fit at the time, and sooner or later some of them come up with great things for humanity, but for the ones that don't, so what? They're living their lives on their own terms, making use of themselves to themselves every day. This is the greatest, most enlightened way to live. The free time to live your life unfettered the way you really want is your most valuable commodity. The only problem is money. Find a way to earn it by doing something that you like to do that can help people. At times when you're young, you don't know who you are but just have to keep going in the direction you feel is right and working at what you feel inside. Keep exploring your life. If you live like this, you can't go wrong no matter what happens. Sooner or later, you reach points of enlightenment if you are willing to pay the price of introspection and the pursuit of your true self through taking your inspired soulful pursuits as far as you can. The pursuit of aesthetics is basically to recognize the beauty inside and live to create it on the outside. It's about living for the creative, intense, transcendent parts of yourself. To some people, it's all-encompassing, it means everything to pursue their own conception of beauty, soul individualism, and mysticism. The psychobablists like to call it a narcissistic personality disorder. To real individuals, it's the only way to live, free and pure. In order to really get the most out of your life, you have to throw caution to the wind at least once and do something really tough and challenging alone. This is the true test of life. Live your life your own way. I believe that the only life worth living is to find your God-given talents and pursue them with passion. That's what God wants, every person to contribute their particular, unique beauty to the symphony of the world. It's really all about spirits on high, run in as much as you can to become the person you were born to be regardless of the mundanity of the world around you. Ask yourself the following questions to help determine what your true identity is. Were you happy as a kid, living by your own whims and inspiration? Have you ever thought your own thoughts and did your own thing, content within yourself? Have you ever felt peaceful in your own space, unfazed by the world around you? Do you live with a sense of ease and possibility? Do you explore your life for the experience that it is not giving a damn about anything else, even practical, pragmatic things at times? Do you look for adventure, stimulation, and excitement regardless of what it is? Do you try to define truth, beauty, and perfection, then try to create something beautiful and unique that has inspirational, worthwhile value? Do you trust yourself over and above everything else on the planet? Do you consider learning to be a lifelong process? Do you have an intrinsic thirst for knowledge? Do you feel that your job or your major in school is not your true calling? What do you really care about? What are you really interested in? Do you believe you have the potential within your life to do whatever you want, or are you looking out there for answers and inspiration? Do you feel inspired most days? What do you think of the capitalist lifestyle? Do you feel inadequate because you don't have all the stuff and capitalist success you want? Do you feel a gnawing sense of emptiness inside that you're not living the way your life should be lived? Do you follow your own standard rather than some other agenda? Do you release your natural energy all the time?